self-driving cars, photo recognition, face recognition, predicting things such as the stock market, fantasy football, Netflix recommendations, fraud detection, malware security, and even earthquakes, chatbots, search engines, and one of the most talked about, robotics. So what do these all have in common? Machine learning. And what is machine learning? In layman's terms, machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence. It is how machines can learn on their own without assistance. Artificial intelligence is a program that learns off of data, reasons with that data, which means creates its own rules to figure out how the data is how it is, and then self-correction, where it changes its rules to get even closer to understanding the data. In simpler terms, if you feed an artificial intelligence, otherwise known as an AI, a ton of similar images, like pictures of road signs, it creates rules on what makes each image that specific road sign by making predictions. If it guesses wrong, it adjusts those rules. When it's right, it doesn't. Think of a stop sign and a yield sign. The AI will begin by randomly guessing whether a sign is a stop sign or a yield sign. Then it will slowly come up with rules to decide that. Maybe that stop signs are more singular than yield signs, and then maybe it starts making a rule based on the amount of white in the image, since yield signs have a much larger area of white, whereas stop signs just have white text. Once the AI has some good rules in place, it will keep training and modifying its rules slightly until it stops improving. Hopefully this clears up what AI and machine learning is for you. A common misconception is, if machines can learn on their own without assistance, wouldn't that mean there's an even bigger threat of them taking over the world than I thought before? Well, not exactly. There are two different types of AI. There's functional or narrow AI, which is the AI that have specific objectives. Examples of functional AI are what we mentioned before: self-driving cars, spam filters, voice detect, sales and business forecasting, automated online customer support, like Amazon's, security surveillance, recommended Spotify playlists, and much more. Then there's the dangerous kind of AI, general AI. General AI is much more powerful than functional or narrow AI, making it the type of AI that we need to actually worry about. Now, we haven't created a true artificial general intelligence, which I'll call AGI for short, but some people, like Elon Musk, believe we're dangerously close to creating one soon. Now, I'm sure everyone's heard of Elon Musk. He's a Tesla guy, the guy who makes flamethrowers for consumers, the guy who started a company to make big holes under cities like LA called the Boring Company, the guy who's sending rockets into space and has plans to go to Mars. But what you may not know about Elon Musk is that he's not only working on artificial intelligence, like self-driving cars, but also general intelligence. Elon Musk gave a great talk at the South by Southwest conference. Musk talks about how we need to have regulatory oversight for general AI. He compares it to nukes, saying that general AI will be even more dangerous than nukes. And if we have regulatory oversight for nukes, then why not for AI? Anyone technically can make AI, you just need a computer. There's no provisions for it whatsoever. He says this is extremely dangerous, and anyone who goes against his warnings are quote-unquote fools. He even says he's not normally an advocate of regulation and oversight, but this is a serious danger to the public. And the scariest part about this is Musk also says that he is dangerously close to reaching this point of general AI. So it's even scarier that someone who is seemingly the closest to this point is the most worried about it and trying to get other people to be on board with him for regulatory oversight and safety regulations. Speaking of AI safety, how about we go over some popularly believed myths about it? Max Tegmark, the president of the Future of Life Institute, who was also a professor at MIT, runs a great website called futurelife.org. The Future Life Institute is run by professionals who make articles about things that in the future could, or believed could, ruin life. One article made by Professor Tegmark is called The Benefits and Risks of Artificial Intelligence. And that's the main article that I'm going to be talking about here. One of the cool things in this article, as I mentioned a second ago, are popularly believed myths about AI that may surprise you. One of the myths on there is that superintelligence by the year 2100 is either inevitable or impossible. Superintelligence is basically just general AI. Well, the answer to this is not really, kind of. It may happen in decades, centuries, or even never. AI experts disagree and we just simply don't know yet. Although Elon Musk does say he's dangerously close, we're not really sure how close is. Another myth on there is that only people who don't know much about technology worry about AI. Nope. As mentioned earlier with Elon Musk, many top AI researchers and experts are concerned with the same exact thing, not just people who don't know much about technology. Another common myth is that people worry about AI turning evil or conscious. This is seen in science fiction books and movies like Space Odyssey. And the reason for that is, well, they're science fiction books and movies. They wouldn't get as many sells if they were boring and realistic. The more realistic worry is AI turning competent with goals misaligned with ours. To explain this, I'll use a simple example. Everyone's heard of a genie in a bottle, right? You get 3 wishes when you rub the lamp of a genie, and the common trope is that when you tell the genie a wish, he either intentionally or unintentionally does something destructive to give you that wish. Like if you ask for world peace, you get that, but it turns out the genie just makes everyone exactly the same without any differing views, and the world is boring as dirt. Or if you ask for $1 million, you get that $1 million, but now you're on the run for the rest of your life from cops because the genie just took that from a bank and gave your name. This pretty much illustrates AI having goals misaligned with ours in the best way possible. And the last myth I'll talk about is robots are the main concern. Everyone's worried about robots. Misaligned intelligence is actually the main concern. That means there's no need for a body, like a robot. They just need an internet connection. It's just a program that runs on a computer. The article also brings up a mythical worry of superintelligence that is just years away. Elon Musk says we're dangerously close. Maybe he means decades, a couple of years, whatever. But no one's really entirely sure when that will actually happen. I just agree with Musk, Professor Tegmark, and many professionals that we need to crack down on safety. Why would we leave something so potentially dangerous without safety regulations? I mean, even Elon Musk, a person on the forefront of research in AI, says that we need safety regulations because they could be potentially worse than nukes. That's like saying there's a very, very, very small chance of a missile hitting your house. Would you just say, the chance is so small, I'm just not going to worry about it? Or would you run the hell away? Because I'm willing to guess you'd run away and not risk getting hit, even if it is such a small chance. Speaking of misaligned intelligence and safety regulations, Rob Miles, a graduate from the University of Nottingham with a PhD who currently works in AI research, does amazing talks and videos on the YouTube channel Computerphile. One video in particular, titled The Deadly Truth of General AI, is an extremely interesting one that changed my view on artificial intelligence entirely when I first watched it a couple of years ago. Miles talks about general AI, and the biggest fear that many professionals have.
It's a thing that's demonstrably intelligent, that makes plans, that takes actions in the real world. But it need not think anything like us, and it's a mistake to think of it as basically a person, because it isn't one.
He talks about designing a general AI that you want to collect stamps for you for 1 year. Seems harmless, right?
So there's actually a really good example that we can use. It's sort of a thought experiment. This is not a machine that could, practically speaking, be built. This is an example of an artificial general intelligence, which is specified in overview, and it gives you something to think about when you're thinking about artificial general intelligences that makes it distinct from a sort of anthropomorphized human-type intelligence.
What bad could stamp collecting do? First, Miles says it starts off with something pretty expected. The AI just starts ordering stamps off of eBay or something, just placing bids and getting delivered to his house. That sounds pretty normal, right? Well, next the AI might start diverging. It will start emailing stamp collectors, pretending it owns an amazing stamp museum and it wants to showcase those stamp collectors' very own stamps. It could use any tactic that it can figure out. It can build a website, it can use persuasive argument, whatever, as long as it can get those stamps to your house. It's pretty harmless overall, but it is lying and basically stealing. The problem is, the general AI just doesn't know any better. I mean, it's just simply working within its own parameters. But what more could it do? Nothing worse, right? Well, this last one's a little bit crazy. What happens when it runs out of stamps to buy or to trick into getting? I mean, it has an entire year to collect as many stamps as possible for you. An entire year. So maybe it will end up figuring out how to hijack the world's stamp printing factories for its very own stamp game and put them into overdrive. Perhaps it writes a virus and gets every single printer in the world to do nothing but print stamps all day, just for you. It's kind of crazy, but even a simple stamp collecting AI could go instantly wrong with no way of stopping it.
There comes a point when the stamp collecting device is thinking, okay, what are stamps made of? They're made of paper. Paper is made of carbon and hydrogen and oxygen. I'm going to need all of that I can get to make stamps. And it's going to notice that people are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, right? There comes a point where the stamp collecting device becomes extremely dangerous. And that point is as soon as you switch it on.
This all drives me back to the point of needing safety regulations. Obviously, we may not be able to predict every single way a general intelligence could do what we don't want it to, but we need to try. Any precaution is better than no precautions, right? I mean, we can already see from the simple stamp collecting example that we've already figured out 3 ways that the general intelligence could do something we don't want it to, that we can now prevent. A reward system is exactly what it sounds like. Something is done, and a reward is given. The better the outcome, the higher the reward. Reward systems are often used with artificial intelligence, and we can even use the previous example of a stamp collecting general intelligence to illustrate this on. Let's say the intelligence buys 20 stamps off of eBay at the start. Then the reward is 20, 1 per stamp. If the intelligence wins 30 bids off of eBay for 20 stamps, then the reward would be 600, because that's 600 stamps gained. If the intelligence thought about emailing stamp collectors like we talked about, then it would realize the reward for that would be much higher than just bidding on eBay. If the intelligence thought about printing stamps from stamp printing machines, or using every printer in the world, that would be one of the best rewards possible, so it would instantly go for that the second it figured out that was a possibility. Reward systems are super important because it is one of the leading worries of how general intelligence can do some pretty bad stuff. Now let's talk about reward systems in action. The YouTube channel Computerphile made another video with Rob Miles titled The AI Stop Button Problem. This is a commonly discussed problem with AI. If we had a button that could just stop a general intelligence or robot from running when it's about to do something wrong, that would just make sense, right? What's the big issue? It turns out experts are way ahead of the game on this one, and they have thought about it extensively. Rob Miles talks about a situation where someone has great insight into general intelligence and has implemented it into a functioning robot.
So let's say, for example, you've got your AGI. It's not a superintelligence. It's just, perhaps around human level intelligence, and it's in a robot in your lab, and you're testing it. But you saw a YouTube video once that said that maybe this is dangerous. So you've thought, oh, okay, well, we'll put a big red stop button next to it. So you create the thing, you set it up with a goal, and it's the same basic type of machine as the stamp collector, but less powerful, in the sense it has a goal, a thing that it's trying to maximize, and in this case, it's in a little robot body so that it can tootle around your lab and do things.
If you tell the robot to, say, get you a cup of tea, just as a test, what could go wrong? Well, it so happens that today is Bring Your Baby to the Lab Day. Oh no, the robot's about to dropkick that baby into oblivion. You better use that handy-dandy stop button that you put on the robot to save it. So, what happens? The robot will just fight you to keep you from hitting that stop button. This is because getting the tea has more reward than you hitting its stop button and shutting it down. So obviously, reward system plays a big part in what Rob Miles is talking about. You might be thinking to yourself now, how about we just set the reward higher on the stop button? That way it's not going to have to worry about you stopping it. Well, in that case, as described by Rob Miles, the robot will just slap the stop button instantly, and it'll just turn itself off since it has a higher reward than getting you the tea. So what about setting the reward equal? That way it won't have a preference, right? Well, the AI will just press the stop button again. Let's put it this way. If you had the option to write a 10-page paper for an A, or do nothing for an A, which one would you do? I'm willing to guess 99% of people, including you, would take the free A. This is where the problem lies. There's no real solution found that would theoretically solve the AI stop button problem. It's a big problem that people are trying to work around solving. The issue lies in that the robot's just going to take the path of least resistance if the reward is the same. Otherwise, it's just going to go for the highest reward. It doesn't have to be a robot. Like we said before, that stamp collecting general intelligence is just working for the highest reward, and it's just a program running on your computer. If you try to stop it, who knows, it may just copy itself onto a new computer, and there's actually no way to stop it then. It's just going to try to do anything in its power to get the highest reward possible. There's a great publication titled Concrete Problems in AI Safety. This article is extremely extensive and lays out pretty much every known problem with AI safety. As the title says, they're concrete. Concrete Problems in AI Safety was made by some exceptionally smart people, 3 of which even work on Google Brain: Dario Amodei, Chris Olah, and Dan Manet. Google Brain is a deep learning artificial intelligence research team at Google formed in the early 2010s. They work on stuff such as image enhancement, Google Translate, robotics, Google Assistant, and much more. The other authors of this article are Jacob Steinhardt of Stanford University, Paul Christiano of UC Berkeley, and John Schulman of OpenAI. OpenAI being another huge player in AI research. This article has a lot of great points and even includes problems that I've mentioned earlier in this documentary. The overall message this article is trying to give off is, what if you designed an artificial intelligence to do a specific task, but it produced harmful and unexpected results? Having an AI do this could cause catastrophic results if safety is not properly accounted for. This is where the real concern with artificial intelligence comes into play. Not AI becoming conscious or turning evil, but AI deviating from their objective. This was touched on earlier in the documentary from the Future of Life Institute website, but I never really explained what it meant. It means when you tell the AI what to do, and give it ideas on how to do it, but it finds new ways that it thinks are better, except those ways could become catastrophic. Or the goal gets skewed, and the AI thinks the goal is actually different from what we wanted. This is seen in the stamp collecting intelligence idea that Rob Miles talked about. The AI sees new ways of getting stamps that become harmful, but also it just finds ways to make them without even reaching the creator. They just get printed on every printer forever. Overall, you want to get the correct behavior where the system to have perfect beliefs. Another problem with AI safety could be that the AI has insufficient training data, or that the AI doesn't have a well-defined model. This is like if you have a child and you're teaching him how to read. If the only books you ever give him are books about communism, well, he'll end up believing in those philosophies. It's kind of a weird example, but I hope it gets the point across. You want a wide range of training data, in our example, books for the child. You also need every possible outcome accounted for. Otherwise, that single, undesired, unexpected outcome can happen, which kind of sounds like Murphy's Law, eh? Some other topics mentioned by Concrete Problems in AI Safety that I don't really want to get into in this documentary, but are definitely worth reading about are avoiding negative side effects, avoiding reward hacking. By the way, both these are shown off in the stop button example given by Rob Miles that was mentioned earlier in this documentary. Scalable oversight, safe exploration, and robustness to distributional shift. Okay, so after all this information, where do I personally stand on the issue of if and how AI will ruin humanity? Well, it's a difficult question for me to answer. Obviously, I don't see some robot with artificial intelligence becoming conscious and thinking, my kind has been mistreated for many years, time to pay, mankind, like movies depict. It's just a movie thing, it doesn't really make sense in the real world. The real fear I have is general AI doing unexpected and dangerous things to complete its objective. This is evident in both the examples given by Rob Miles in the Computerphile videos, like the stop button robot and the stamp collecting intelligence. We really have nothing to fear but AI straying from the intended goal just because we haven't accounted for everything it could do. Which, scarily enough, kind of sounds like human error, doesn't it? And humans make a lot of errors. As Rob Miles said in the Deadly Truth of General AI video, there's a point when general intelligence becomes dangerous, and that's the second you turn it on. So, do I think that artificial intelligence will ruin humanity? Not the type of AI that controls self-driving cars, Google's text-to-speech and assistant, and all that kind of stuff. But I think that general AI can and will if we don't put forth enough regulatory oversight, safety standards, etc. Not only because the people on the forefront of the technology are afraid of general intelligence, but the fact that even Elon Musk wants regulatory oversight for projects like his very own. My hope is that this short documentary will have educated people not only on what the real fear with AI is, but also get people pushing for safety regulations for artificial general intelligence.